Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Joined here by my fleet of former Vols. We have Jacob Gillum, former Vol offensive lineman who was on last year's team. We have Sterling Hinton, former Vol quarterback, who is very much a part of Tennessee recruiting with his DJing and everything else. We have former Vol defensive line, former NFL defensive lineman, former national champion, Will Overstreet. Whoa. And we have former offensive lineman David Ligon right down there. All right, guys, let me ask you. I'm going to run through some Twitter questions here in a second. But my first question. A lot of talk nationally about the blown leads at Tennessee. Your wide receivers in your passing game are nil at the moment. You've got a lot of quarterbacks and receivers who are committed to Tennessee. Look at Sterling, bite his lip. At what point, because you know coaches are already using this against you, you really want to go be a receiver in this offense? At what point does this stuff start to bite you in recruiting, which is the one area where Butch Jones has absolutely excelled? Or is it time to be concerned that this could hurt you in recruiting?
I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I think at this point, our coaches can counteract anything the negative recruiting. I mean, if anything, they're going to call them up and say, if we had you, the outcome would have been different. And believe me, when you're 17 and 18 years old, you believe that. Yeah. So I think they've shown that they can recruit well, and they'll know how to counter all of that. But and hopefully maybe turn it into a positive, because I think talent-wise, I don't know at this point. Is it talent at the receiver position? Is it coaching? I don't know.
I'm not seeing guys get open, but
no. Here's the one problem.
Part of that could be scheme.
Is one of these wide receivers that was a high recruit decides to leave or starts getting a little frustrated and things start slipping into the media, then that's going to hurt recruiting. Because if you start, guys, wide receivers, they have some egos, they want to make plays, and if that doesn't happen over the course of the season a little bit at a time, you're going to start hearing rumblings, and that'll hurt you.
Okay.
I don't think it'll hurt recruiting. I think, winning solves all the problems. We get a couple of those wins,
Then they better win.
I think we will. Like I said, we're close now. We're close. I mean, we're close, and we're going to get there.
Here's the thing. He came in selling magic dust and magic beans. I mean, he didn't have anything to point to. And I think if he could sell it then, he's probably going to be able to sell it, as you say, spin it around and say, well, man, if we had you, it'd be all different. So I don't think it's going to hurt recruiting, but I think it's worth a question, obviously. Yep. Somebody threw in a positive one here. So if Aaron Medley kicks the ball 6 inches to the left, Butch Jones shouldn't be fired? And I think his point is, and it's true, I mean, you got a lot of people calling for heads today. As frustrating as it is, Tennessee literally is 2 missed field goals from being 4-0, and the world's a happy place. You're in the top 15, and Butch Jones is great. Now he's the worst coach in the world because you missed 2 field goals.
Well, I think I'd be having problems, and I'd still be saying the same things I'm saying now.
The masses.
Yeah, the masses obviously, but the masses also thought this team was going to win 10 games in August. I mean, they had their expectations way out of whack. So, I mean, there are some legitimate things you can say about this coaching staff, and are true, but I think going to the level of, let's get rid of them all and restart, that's how you got to here.
Yep.
Well, I think about this too.
Part of that, yeah.
We don't talk about 2-point conversions if that happens. We make the field goal. I mean, let's go to the last time we beat Florida. Who talks about, we should have gone for 2 instead of missing the extra point and forcing a freshman quarterback to drive down and then go to hero with James Wilhoit's kick. I never heard anything about 2-point conversions. We talked about we won.
Was this loss the equivalent of Derek Dooley's loss to Kentucky, in terms of you've lost the fans and you ain't getting them back?
No way. That was the one time ever in my life I've ever seen Tennessee football players look like they didn't want to be there or just quit. I was there. My brother played at Kentucky. That was a horrible day for me. But what I saw on the sideline just completely. They didn't want to be there.
That was a symbol he lost the respect of the team. Butch Jones hadn't gone there yet, not by anywhere close to that. So that was entirely different.
Jacob, we asked last week or a couple of weeks ago, what are the chances of him losing this team now? We asked if Jones could lose the team. Is there any quit in this team? Everybody always wants to say, no, there's no quit. Well, if that were true, you wouldn't see teams quit across the country every year, and they do. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're teetering at all?
I don't think they are. I've been on teams that have quit. I was there as a freshman or sophomore Kentucky loss, and that was one of the low points of my career there at Tennessee, and I didn't make the trip to Kentucky, but I just knew the feeling on the team after we lost that game was that we didn't have the right guy up there at the helm. So I've been on teams that have quit before, and this isn't one of those teams. Butch Jones has created a culture now that they're always going to be behind them no matter how many games we win or lose.
Okay. And again, we're answering your questions on Twitter. A lot of these came in earlier. We're trying to get to as many as we can. Is Butch Jones in over his head in the Southeastern Conference? A lot of people saying, well, you can win in the MAC, you can win in the Big East, but this is not the SEC. Personally, I don't think that's fair because, if you win against even coaches at another level, it's the Bruce Pearl in basketball. I mean, you're tearing it up at 1AA. Well, you're probably going to be able to be good against equal competition as you move up. But the SEC is pretty tough.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, you look at Nick Saban. You want to know why he's won a lot of national championships? It's because he's had a lot of really good players. His first year when they go 6-6, they've lost to Louisiana Monroe.
Yes.
If he was the greatest coach in the world, they wouldn't have lost to Louisiana Monroe. They would have come up with some scheme and won the game. He was playing with probably an empty deck and hadn't had his players in there yet, and they went 6-6. Now he rectified it and got better players. Obviously has a good coaching staff and made things work out for him.
I do say this. The coaching staff's got to learn some things,
yes.
and they got to change some things. Because just like if a coach goes from college to the NFL, it's not the same. You have to change some of the things you're doing. I think when the step that they've made, they've got to really kind of digest and say, does all of that work that worked at Cincinnati work in the SEC? And I think the answer is not everything.
I also think that your comment toward the end of the show today was dead on, and that is, okay, Kurt Magid's out of the mix. So this defensive line, Barnett isn't going to be the same Barnett without Magid on the other side. Yeah. You've now got to change the way you're coaching this team because it's not the same way it was last year. I think that's a great point because not only might you have to look at how you coached in other conferences, you got to look at how you coached last year and say, all right, it's not what we're a third of the way through the season. This isn't the team we thought. Let's adjust.
And this isn't the team we thought we were going to have coming into the season with the wide receivers and everything. There's a couple of positions now. You got enough game tape to say, are we really good, or do we need to change what we think we are in our identity?
All right. I like this one. Should Dave Hart hire a closer just to bring in the second half of games? That's pretty good. All right, I'm going to ask you this one. If Mike Bajakian is your offensive coordinator, do you have a different record, or are you still 2-2?
That's a tough question. I haven't played for Coach Jake. We did a lot of things differently offensively. A lot of the short passes, the slants, the hitches that you don't see this year are things we threw a lot last year. We threw a lot of screens. We threw a lot of bubble screens. And we're not doing that this year. It's a different offense. And if you look at the rushing totals, are totally different than last year. We're running the ball much more effectively, whether that's experience in the backfield or up front remains to be seen. But as far as the scheme goes, I think that you win one more game with Coach Jake in there. And I say that because I think you close out the Florida game differently with Coach Jake running offensive coordinator. I'm not saying Coach DeBoer can't win those games, but I'm saying that with Coach Jake in there, I just think that the Florida game ends up different.
If Pig Howard is in there, if he's healthy and on the trip yesterday, do you think you see him making any of those slant catches, shallow crosses that you used to see? You saw more of them when Worley was the quarterback. Then I was going through video last week to find this. I saw more of that with Worley than I did with Dobbs when he got in there, so which makes me wonder if they are confident enough in Dobbs being accurate throwing across the middle where it's more dangerous. Do you think if Pig Howard is back there yesterday, they're throwing a little across the middle a bit more, or do you think, no, this is just DeBoer?
I think we throw maybe one or two more slants, but I mean, if you look at the guys we have, Von Pearson is a great over-the-middle receiver. He can catch those balls, whether they're thrown behind him or in front of him.
Yeah, except for the one yesterday.
He dropped one, I get it.
Yeah,
but his track record just shows he's a great over-the-middle receiver, and I feel like, yeah, if Pig's in there, we throw it more often because we're more confidence there. But with Dobbs at quarterback, you've really changed what you do. With Worley, you throw short passes, and that's kind of your run game.
Yes.
With Dobbs, now you have quarterback runs and reads that you can play that get those 5-6 yard carries that you need.
Maybe time to work more of those short passes back in.
I would agree.
All right. Very quickly, why are North, Malone, Pearson not getting targets downfield? Again, I go back to the fact that I'm not seeing them running wide open anywhere. I mean, some of it may be you don't have time to drop back and throw deep balls with the offensive line. Some of it may be that Dobbs isn't accurate, so they're not trusting with those. But I see him drop back and there's nothing there, and he tucks it and runs. So I think some of it is on the receivers.
Oh, there's no doubt it's on the receivers. I mean, if you have legitimately this good a group as it was announced coming into this year, there are no, if you got a guy on you, you'd be able to get off. I mean, if there were guys wanting down the field free, even if Dobbs is not the greatest quarterback in the world, you'd see more balls flying down that way. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, I feel like we're not throwing those deep balls. I mean, if you really wanted to throw them, you can get 7-man protection, have a tight end chip one defensive end, have a running back chip the other one, and throw the deep balls. Have 2 guys run streaks and throw it. You can do that. That's in the game plan. We're just not doing it. We're not throwing deep balls. I mean, I'd love to see the amount of targets we've had over 20 yards. I don't think it'd be more than I can count on my hand.
Okay. I'd like to get my hands on the all 22, just to see the video, just to see how many times you're seeing separation, how many times they are down the field, and how many times there is how much time there is separation. Can't talk, which means it's time for the last question. What can be done about teams faking injuries to slow down Tennessee's offense? That's nationwide. I mean, they do it to Oregon, they do it to everybody. I don't think anything can be done. Can it?
I don't think anything can be done. I think even the referees are more concerned about the safety of the players during the game. And, if that's in people's game plan to do that, that's not how I was taught to play football. Never fake an injury, because when you get hurt, it gets worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the rules are designed for the offense.
You get the defensive
if you gotta, listen, it's gamemanship. At some point in time, it's how you play. When the rules are designed to give the advantage to the offense, eventually the defense has to come up with a few things to give it a little bit more back. That's one of the ways they do it.
And one thing I'll give Butch Jones credit on in the Bowling Green game, where the guy literally looked like somebody had shot him from a grassy knoll. He just fell down trying to stop the game. Butch Jones, after they asked you, he said, look, the refs are worried about players' health, so I'm not going to complain about it. I thought that was good that he didn't complain about it, because, look, if it is to protect the players and somebody's going to take advantage of it, okay. If the goal is health, I got it. I'm going to give everybody here like 10, 15 seconds. Give me your final thoughts from yesterday and moving toward Arkansas. Anything else you want to throw in?
Yeah, I think moving towards Arkansas, they blow a lot of leads in the fourth quarter too. I think it's going to be a fun game. I feel like obviously that we'll pull this one out. They were good at times against A&M, but I feel like we'll be too strong for them in the run game.
Very quick, Sterling.
Close counts and horseshoes and grenades. We're playing football. Let's go over the hump.
Put playmakers on the field at all times. Not the guy the smartest, but if Kamara's your best punt returner, don't let him just do one at the very end. Put him there the entire game. Trust your guys. The guys that can make plays need to be on the field at all times from the first snap, not the third series.
Goes for linebackers too.
Very much so.
Okay. What do you got there, David?
It's time for the team to circle the wagons. You've had 2 tough losses against very good football teams, but the season's not over. You can still have a great year. You can look in the history of Tennessee football. You've lost to Florida before and still been able to play in Atlanta. Oklahoma, it doesn't matter. Everyone hurts, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. They can still put together a great year, and it starts with Arkansas.
I want to say one more thing, and I'm sorry, John P.
No,
but, I look at those Oklahoma and Florida as L's, not losses. Let's make them learning lessons. Make them lessons. Let's show our people and our nation we learn from it. Let's take it to the top.
All right, very good. We'll close on that positive note from the Reverend Sterling Henson. Very good. All right. We will see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6 for the Sports Source. Thanks for joining us here on Overtime on SportsSource.tv. See you next week.